Song present. Mark Person,
Mark Person here.
Patricia Fallender,
Tricia Fallender here.
Robin Hubbard,
Robin Hubbard here.
Gail Myers-Lavin,
Gail Myers-Lavin here.
Maxine Minkoff,
Maxine Minkoff here.
Walter North,
Here.
Neff Runyon. He's not here tonight, and I am here, believe it or not. Okay, and we have guests, Alan Harrison, John Janelle, and Richard Hartman. I see them out there. First item on our agenda is approval of minutes for April 5th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I move.
Second,
So Mark moved it, and who seconded?
Pat.
Tricia.
Okay. Are there any omissions or corrections? Seeing none, we'll vote on the minutes as read. Mark Person,
Aye. Mark Person, aye.
Patricia Fallender,
Tricia Fallender, aye.
Robin Hubbard,
Robin Hubbard, aye.
Gail Myers-Lavin,
Gail Myers-Lavin, aye.
Maxine Minkoff,
Aye.
Walter North,
Walter, aye.
and I approve them also. So it's 700 to approve the minutes of April 5th, 2021. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Each Charter Review Committee meeting shall have a public comment. This portion of the meeting should not in its entirety exceed 30 minutes. Each recognized speaker at public comment shall keep his or her remarks non-personal toward any individuals, and remarks should be kept to no more than 3 minutes. These limits will be enforced at the discretion of the chairperson of the Charter Review Committee. Generally, remarks made during public comment are those that pertain to the review of the charter and should include chapter and paragraph to which they refer. If the subject, in the opinion of the chairperson of the committee or a majority of its members, would be better addressed as a future agenda item because it warrants public notice and/or debate, then the chairperson shall so indicate. Speakers at public comment shall identify themselves before speaking and should provide their contact information to the committee secretary for purposes of follow-up on items to be scheduled for future agendas. Opinions and comments expressed and the accuracy of the information provided by speakers during public comment portion of the meeting do not necessarily reflect opinions or conclusions of the Charter Review Committee. Is there anyone out there for public comment? Hearing and seeing none, I will close public comment. Item 5. Patricia Fallender and Robin Hubbard tracking summary sheet update.
I haven't had any
Nothing's
additional
come in.
updates that I've had to put in.
No.
So what is posted now on the website is the last one that I did right after our last meeting. I know I do need to correct a person's name spelling, but I will do that the next time we add any more and post it again. So
Yep, nothing's come in.
Gail,
Just to note that the date on it is actually incorrect. It's March 8th. It's about the only thing that you didn't change before you left because we were all
okay,
going
well,
crazy.
whatever. It's close enough.
But if you, yeah, okay.
We
I will
haven't had
change it.
anything In a while, yeah.
anything to add, Robin?
No, we haven't had anything new come in. I check it daily and nothing new has come in.
Okay. Gail, resource page update.
You received late this afternoon what I received from Sarah with a lot more columns on it. And what I did was I just got it into the 2 columns that matter to us, which is page views and hits. Number of hits down the right-hand column and the page views. What advanced search means is when someone goes to the to the town webpage directly, and then they search for us. Otherwise, people have gone on in the little search box. Otherwise, they've gone down the boards and committees and so on and so forth and punched it that way, and then the rest of what you're looking at comes up. And that's about as much as I've had time to do.
Any comments? Okay, thank you, Gail.
John,
Yeah.
once again, we owe a great debt to Sarah for outstanding
Yes.
help.
It was amazing work.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank her for that, and also just to put in the minutes the notice that we actually, between January the 1st to April the 29th, had 1,777 hits,
Oh, wow.
which is pretty
Wow.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope they were all
Now,
good. No other comments? Okay, we'll turn it over to Robin Hubbard and we'll meet with Alan Harrison, the Orleans Recreation Director. Thank you for coming, Alan.
Thank you,
Thank
Alan.
you for having me.
Alan had suggested he'd like to come and talk with us on our tracker, so we invited him. And we would love to have you talk about what your concerns were. And it seems to me there's also something relating to perhaps something specific to the Community Preservation Act. With adding somebody from Recreation to the commission, I mean.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, well, that's another specific thing, but anyway, you had said you wanted to come and talk with us, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, the committee, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. I am finishing up almost my 4th year as the Recreation Director for the town of Orleans. And in that 4 years, when I've come in, I was hired under the directive of John Kelly, the town administrator, and work under Tom Daly, the head of the DPW, and Nate Sears, the harbor master. And that's where I work in the building, is in the DPW building. And in the time that I've been here, I have really seen and worked with the staff here to grow certain programs. We have established what we call a revolving fund, which allows us to charge a fee for our programs, various costs for that program, our summer recreation program, our youth sports. We've been able, with the fees, to increase adult offerings, fitness classes, adult tennis, by charging a fee and using that funds to either pay an instructor, buy equipment that we did not have in the annual operating budget. We have developed what's called MyRec, which is a recreation user website in which we have all of our registrations for programs, all of our advertising on
sorry,
there. Yes.
Alan, I'm taking the minutes. Could you just say that again? I didn't understand what you
Oh,
called
yes,
it.
the program, it's a web-based program for registration called myrec.com.
B-Y?
MYREC. Yep. And
Sorry.
it's our website where people in town who want to register for activities or see what we're doing can go on that site, sign up for programs. I'm able to use that site to send out email information to registrants for programs. The other thing that I'm anticipating happening in the next couple of months is that we're going to be increasing the rec staff, which currently is me at 35 hours per week, to a potential of a 19.5 hour recreation specialist that can help me help us grow our programs by being another 20-hour, 19.5 hour per week staff person who can work outside in the field doing programming, work in the office to help with emailing, with registration, and whatever the daily activities would be. The thing that I like here, and I've spoken with the staff here in this department at the DPW building, is everybody reports to Tom Daly. Myself, other office managers here report directly to Tom Daly. And we've hired in the past, I would say specifically probably in November, December, we hired a full-time beach director that works in this building as well. So between myself running recreation, the beach person running the beach program, and the Parks Department, which maintains our fields, I work with them on scheduling and maintenance and activities that we have going on. We seem to feel that we have something here that works very well. It's been going on certainly longer than I have been here, when the previous recreation director was employed. Everybody in that area works under Tom. We develop our budgets together. We work closely if there's a need to move money from department to department or from program to program. It's all done through Tom Daly. And I'm really pleased with where we are and our goals as we've set forward in the future. And the reason I'm here tonight is not just to tell you all of the things that I think are good things that are running in our program, but about 2 years ago, the town did appoint through the Board of Selectmen what's called a Recreation Advisory Committee. They are appointed by the Board of Selectmen, 7 members with a 2-person backup, and they meet monthly. And their goal, as their charter is written, is to provide advisory situations to myself, to the town administrator, and to the Board of Selectmen. That could be on budgets, that could be on activities, programming. And we're finding now that a couple of those members are pushing forward to have a commission where the group would be elected by the town. Coming before this committee, I believe, to propose that they become a commission, and that they have that more authority taken away from Tom Daly, taken away from potentially the town administrator. I don't know the total ins and outs of that. But I'm here to present to you my hope that we keep things the way they are. We're moving forward with success. We're moving forward with the different departments working well together under Tom Daly. And we don't see any need to make any changes in the governance of the direction, the leadership of recreation.
Anyone have any comments? Maxine?
Yeah, I have one question. In terms of the recreation program, can you tell me, in terms of youth in particular, what the range of programs are?
They
I'm
range.
aware of the sports. I'm not aware of what other programs exist.
They range from, let's say in the summer, to 2 sites for recreational activities. One is the elementary school, which is an 8 a.m. to 12 noon drop-off program. We also have one at the middle school, which is an 8 a.m. to 12 noon during the summer months. It's a 6-week program. We provide lunch, we provide field trips, we provide sports and games and activities, especially at the younger kids. The arts and crafts is very popular. 2 years ago, prior to the COVID situation that we had last summer, an average daily attendance at the elementary school was about 95 to 100 kids. We did have about 135 totally registered during the summer. At the middle school program, we had probably about 40 to 45 registered throughout the summer. On an average daily attendance, we would have 20 to 25 students from the middle school level drop in and participate in our daily program. Certainly in that, the tennis was very popular. Sports are very popular with kids. We did branch out recently and do things like bike rides on the bike trail, bowling at the bowling alley, ice skating at the ice skating rink.
Yeah, but one of the things I've been concerned about, and this is no surprise, is that a great focus of the rec program has been on sports, and of course, sports are critical, but there are also a lot of kids around here who are very artistically talented and interested, who are interested in music, who are interested in theater and in STEM, science programs. I mean, there are a lot of areas that seem to be untouched. And I'm wondering your response to that.
Our goal is to reach out, and we're hoping the biggest thing that we have really focused on and have needed over the past, and this is certainly something that even prior to me coming on, is just being able to offer a lot of these programs and either interworking with the Council on Aging and having some intergenerational activities. To be honest with you, the biggest thing we feel we need is increase in staff. We feel this a 19.5-hour person is going to help in organizing some of these after-school activities, which we have had in the past, but with the COVID situation this year, that was shut down. But again, that focuses on more elementary school level activities that one person like myself can come in and do with second graders, third graders, fourth graders, whether it be fitness classes or soccer programs or anything else that's sort of related to that, where we can take only so many children based on enrollment size that we can actually fit into either the gym or with one adult. But I think your comments are definitely things that myself and Tom and Nate have looked at in terms of if and when we get a staff person, we can begin to reach out and utilize.
I don't mean to cut you off, Alan, but what you're going to do isn't our purview.
Right.
Okay, I think Mark had a comment, but that you need to discuss with the selectmen.
Certainly.
Do you have a comment, Mark?
Ellen, I'm curious about your relationship with the Recreation Advisory Committee. The chair of the advisory committee also was before us, and one of the things that I noticed is that she may have been the youngest person in the room, and there's always this attempt to reach a demographic that's a little more youthful or younger than present company. But what I also heard was a degree of frustration of not being able to, at least in a timely way, get something considered for implementation, and that being pickleball courts. She had indicated that that was something that was been discussed and was submitted, but was never acted upon. And I certainly don't have to tell you that pickleball is certainly a growing sport, or some even say it's the hottest sport in the country. And we compare the number of pickleball courts in Orleans to say the number of pickleball courts in Dennis, and it's not even worth talking about. I think there's maybe one in Orleans or two in Orleans on just drawn on a basketball court. So I'm sensing this shall we say power tension between those who are and those who want to be. And so I'm really concerned about why in terms of structure, why this committee didn't get its a hearing about the implementation. It's something that seems pretty obvious. And if you're in one camp and they're in another, structurally, how do you communicate so that the advisory committee is just not a fifth wheel that's not even needed? Fair question?
Very fair question. I would say could potentially be that fifth wheel that's not needed. In looking back, I'm really not sure the person who commented on that.
Okay, we're not going to get into
No, I
that.
know.
Right.
No,
We're going to end this conversation here.
no, John,
Well-
if I,
Walter, did you have something to say?
John, no, I didn't. Thanks.
Okay, because your name flashed up on my screen. Okay, what Robin
Poltergeist.
was referring to earlier, this representation on the CPA committee, CPC committee, and one of the avenues that they donate money to or provide money for is recreation. But the Recreation Advisory Committee does not have a specific representation on that committee. And a member of the public had said that he thought that they should have direct representation on the committee, so recreation was sure to have their needs addressed. And what we're getting into is, would you support that if we felt that that was something that needed to change?
asking me, yes, I definitely think so. I definitely believe that they should have representation. Through all of our efforts, we were able to get approval for pickleball courts and a basketball court, an outdoor basketball court. And that comes from cooperation. It comes from a need of reaching out to the community and finding out what they want, and going through the process of looking at how that's going to be done, what's the process for building these facilities, and then presenting it to the proper committee. And I strongly feel that the Rec Advisory Committee should have a role in regular membership on that committee. I think the purpose of that was to be that voice in the community that I don't have as a non-voter, that they have that ability to go out and reach the community, find out what the community is looking for, and pull all that together to come up with the best possible recreational programming for the citizens of Orleans.
Any other questions of Alan?
I do, John.
Gail?
Yes,
Gail. Oh, Robin too?
Oh, no, I was just telling John he doesn't see your pen up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. One question and one comment, I guess. If the issue that Mark spoke about, my understanding is that they might make a motion to ask for something to be accomplished. And I guess they're feeling that it doesn't always, there seems to be a lack of communication. Maybe what they're asking for is impossible, but I think it would probably be useful, since they are an advisory committee, for you to kind of make them feel like they're being heard. The other thing is that it struck me that they have a kind of young and active committee. And when you're talking about not being able to do a lot of things because of a lack of staff, I think, and John Fuller can probably speak to this, but I think in past times, the committees have actually participated participated in the actual working on these different projects. Maybe there's somebody there that's interested in arts and crafts that could offer to do that, those kinds of things. It might be an opportunity that could be used. And the third thing, just for your information, which we explained to them, there is going to be no change from being an appointed committee. And a commission doesn't necessarily mean an elected committee in any case. We've gone through state law and the charter and so on. So that's a non-starter. They will remain an appointed committee. Those are my things.
Okay, anyone else?
John. Now I am trying to say something. This is Walter.
Yep, okay,
Okay. This isn't really directly at Alan, but I think part of what I thought I heard the rec people saying was that part of the process that was difficult for them was just figuring out how the town government worked, how they could actually effectively interface with the town administration. And I think that's a broader systemic problem in terms of the interface between the committees or commissions and the town government. And I don't know how you get at that in terms of our work responsibilities, but I think that that is where more of the tension lies.
okay. Okay, thank you very much, Alan, for
Thank you,
participating.
Alan.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on, Robin, to John Janelle. Welcome, John.
Welcome, John.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me. I am prepared to start wherever you would like, Mr. Chair.
Well, Robin is running this section of the review, so she will act as chair for your questions. Sorry.
Thank
So
you very
there-
much.
There had been a couple comments on this, and I think, I'm not sure who they all came from. I think perhaps maybe it was from you. One was like allowing associate members on the Conservation Commission to vote.
Yes, thank you, Robin. So the commission, I think, acting on the original email that you sent around seeking, or at least letting the town commissions know of your work. I did raise an issue with them that we discussed at a meeting and then ultimately voted to forward it on to you for your attention. And so that is, I think, a proposed insertion of 2 words in your section 641, Conservation Commission. And I could probably provide a lot of background, and perhaps I should, about that section, about our membership number at 7, and about our alternates, and about, I think, the proposed cleanup. I could do that if I, perhaps I should. I think if that would be helpful, Robin.
Yes.
Okay. Over my shoulder, I was looking over my shoulder and I was going to share with you some notes. It was Article 33, March 16th, 1960, annual town meeting. And I thought you guys might find this interesting. And that was when Orleans voted to accept the provisions of Mass General Law 48C and establish a Conservation Commission. So it is Mass General Law 48C that is the Powers and Duties Act that allow cities and towns in the Commonwealth to establish a CONSCOM. So way back when, we did vote to accept those provisions, and then Orleans shortly thereafter established its first commission. So it's under that general law, that Powers and Duties Act, that we govern here locally as a commission. And in that general law, it lays out for a membership of 7. So I think as we do with alternates, and as I think it's common now after the creation of that law, a lot of towns have alternates, but as the commission pointed out to you in our February email, the alternates are not intended to vote unless the town adopts either a charter provision or a special legislation. And of course, on the Orleans CONSCOM, our alternates do vote. That's the way I've always known it. And when you consult our charter provision 641, it's kind of those words that say, may designate as such associate members to sit. So to sit implies action, I think. And so Orleans associate members have always voted. This is we have a parent organization called the Mass Association of CONSCOMs, and they work with all 356 CONSCOMs in the Commonwealth. And so I've given you, I think, in the February forward, a chapter out of their handbook that is really a guidance book for us. And they highlight some potential issues with associate members voting, but they also understand that some communities adopt special provisions in order to meet quorum counts during, odd times of the year. And while we have, per the charter, 7 and 3 for a total of 10, there have been times where I don't think we've never not held a meeting due to a lack of quorum in my work here for the department, but there have been times we've been close, so the alternates do play a very key role. And the proposed 2 words, I think, really just cleans it up for the Orleans Charter. If in fact you agree, and if there's no legal issues with it, I'm sure you'll vet anything you propose to the town, but it was an attempt to really be clear and say in Orleans, in the absence of a regular member, the alternates will vote. So they will sit and vote. So that was the suggestion that we sent along as a commission. I see we have a commissioner as part of your group here, but I think we were really just forwarding it for your consideration. Whether you move it forward from this point, really, we respect that the decision that you guys will make.
Okay.
John,
Pat?
Pat,
John? When I was reviewing the charter itself, under chapter 6, under general provision, the last part of section 6.1 says, when a multi-member body of the town has associate members, the chairperson at the chairperson's discretion may designate any such associate member to sit in case of absence, inability to act, or in the event of a vacancy on the multi-member body until that vacancy is filled. So that's general to the entire, everything in appointed multi-member bodies. And then I noticed that when it goes to the Conservation Commission at 6.4.1 and the Planning Board at 6.6.1, they repeat it again. So I know this has been reviewed by the AG's office many times as far as our charter is concerned. So I understand putting in specifically to sit and vote, but when I read it, I think I read it like John said, with any such associate member to sit means that they sit and they vote. So I'm just wondering if this is something we have to do, or I know as part of your organization, statewide organization, they recommend it, but I just wanted to point out that we've said this in multiple places. So before we make changes, I just want to make sure.
Gail?
I would add to that, I think I have the same piece of paper that John may have given to people, but on the handbook that I've got on section 2.1.3, which calls voting members of the Conservation Commission, although it states only 3 to 7 officially appointed commissioners may vote, below that it says giving alternate members the right to vote is possible only through a charter provision or a special act of the legislature. Now, this was written in 2005, as of December 2005, and there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 5 of which are on the Cape. All of them did a special act, which we in fact would not have to do if we decided that we did want to add those 2 words.
That's true.
Do members of the committee wish to commit this to a preliminary vote to bring up at a public hearing later in our deliberations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Walter,
what I would say then is we need to read it out as what would be proposed. We'll vote to make the preliminary vote to support it. And then when we have our public hearing, we'll see what the general public says. And then we would bring it to the Board of Selectmen after the public hearing.
So we're talking 6.4.1.
Mhm.
And correct me, John, if I put this in the wrong place. So 641 would read, a Conservation Commission of 7 members and 3 associate members shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, Select Board now, for 3-year overlapping terms. Regarding associate members, the chairperson, at the chairperson's discretion, may designate any such associate member to sit and vote in case of an absence,
Yes,
inability to act, or in the event, which is a Scrivener's error there,
We've already fixed that.
of a vacancy on the commission until said vacancy is filled. So you just want to put the "and vote" in that spot? Does that sound like what you're looking for, John? John Janelle?
Thank you. Yes, that was a suggestion by me and voted by the commission to clean it up. I will say, Robin, we were unaware of Pat's read of the general provision, chapter 6, so that it may be that covers the town even more so than my interpretation of "to sit." But to the extent we can clean it up better and get on that list of those dozen communities that have the provision, I think it'd be helpful so the town can continue the
Redundancy
business.
sometimes is helpful.
Robin, do you want to make that a motion?
I make that a motion.
I second.
Second. Maxine is the second. Further discussion? All those in favor by roll call. Mark,
Aye, Mark Person, aye.
Pat Fallender,
Tricia Fallender, aye.
Robin Hubbard,
Robin Hubbard, aye.
Gail,
Gail Mars Lavin, aye.
Maxine,
Maxine Minkoff, aye.
Walter North,
Aye.
and John Fuller also votes aye. So it's 7-0-0 as a preliminary vote to make the change that Robin motioned. And we will move, and we will put that on our list of things to bring to public hearing.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of John?
Wait a second. I was going to go through my list here.
And as Gail noted,
Grab it all. Yeah.
we're gonna correct the Scrivener's error, make
Yeah,
even.
I think we already did that.
We've already done that.
Done that. Yeah.
It's gone to the town clerk.
Already done? Okay.
Yeah.
And the discussion about changing commission to committee, we discovered didn't matter. So
No,
John,
well, you
can
can't.
I ask,
Yeah, that is a significant.
Hold it. Walter,
no, I defer to Pat.
I do not believe that you can change it to a committee because it is under the Conservation Commission
Right.
Act
right,
of Massachusetts General Law.
Right.
It's Conservation Commission Act, so it has to be commission.
right. So we're going to keep it as it is.
I did find that out also, but it was on our list, so I thought I'd bring it up.
Okay. Is there
Sec-
anything else, John?
Yes,
No, thank you for keeping us a commission.
Well,
I'm so-
I have a question.
So if it's confusing, it is related to that 1960 approval. But so we shouldn't really be changed to anything. It is a conservation commission, so.
Right. Walters has something, I think.
Yeah, John, if you look at the section of section 4 of section 6 or chapter 6, 642, it says the Conservation Commission shall cooperate closely with the Planning Board and the Board of Health. And maybe Pat and Gail also have some perspective on this. What do you think that was meant to mean?
I don't know, but we obviously cooperate with both of those boards. We're more so cooperating, I think, with planning, and I guess I could give you 4 examples. In the town plan, I know the Conservation Commission comments on a number of the town's plans, goals, and objectives. That's done out of the planning office. I know, I'm not sure we've done much with the Board of Health, and I'm not sure what that means in the charter, Walter. It seems the planning functions that are usually run by the planning board a lot of times will involve the Conservation Commission or the department staff.
Thanks. What part of the background for my question is that one of our other members has raised the issue of how to work sort of between committees on overlapping issues, and in particular, the climate change challenge. And I wondered if you had any thoughts on that question and how the town might be better organized to address it.
I don't have any thoughts to share. I wouldn't see that the inter-board or inter-commission cooperation will be too difficult.
You would not see it as being difficult.
Not at all.
Gail,
Two things. In the planning chapter, I think it is 941. It shall be the general responsibility of the town administrator and consultant in consultation with the select board to coordinate the activities of the director of planning and community development and all other multi-member bodies and officials concerned with the physical, economic, and environmental development of the town. I was on the commission, the Charter Commission, and the reason that you see those interactions was that we had a slew of elected boards and committees who never spoke to each other. So what we did when we pulled together the hiring of a professional person, we eliminated a lot of the elected boards. And the idea in putting that language in several of those committee sections was to try and figure out how to get you to actually, not you, but the committees to meet. I think we're all kind of coming to the conclusion that it doesn't seem to be working very well. The other thing people have said is that there are too many committees. And I think that may have been, was it Walter that you said, talking about task forces or ways in which the committees could work together better? That's kind of what's brewing around in our heads, to try and take all those pieces and see whether we can make any sense out of them that would make it easier for you to do your job, for your committee to do its job, and so on.
And part of that is to make sure everyone's going in the same direction in a coordinated way. And rather than duplicate efforts. Or work to cross purpose.
Yeah, I mean,
So John, for example, a practical example potentially from the conservation lane, we permit a lot of projects where we discover that impervious surface is not covered by zoning regulations in certain ways and would be permitted, but it has potentially adverse consequences in terms of the conservation mandate. But I don't know that we have a mechanism for sort of consultation to work to think about those issues, address them, and change them.
well, we certainly do. You could just reach out to the department and board that are in charge of doing those kind of zoning laws. And we have a recent example where we really just did this. And of course, you were instrumental in that, where we reached out to the Board of Health to do something with single-use plastic bags as well as polystyrene. And ultimately, while that was a general law, we didn't involve the planning board with that. It was more the Board of Selectmen. I know that's one thing I failed to mention before when I was speaking, where we did coordinate with the Board of Health. So I believe that was the last time we were before them. And I think it had support of all the boards when it hit the town meeting floor and where it was ultimately adopted. So while the charter provision 642 doesn't say how to initiate that, it's real easy. So if there's a topic, there's no impediment that I can see to reaching out to another board to bring a project forward for the town. So it's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again. I'm not seeing the impediment. I also didn't see the requirement. Maybe that's what you're looking for, some type of annual meeting or annual coordination session. I know the respective boards get busy doing their day-to-day work, and unless there's a special project similar to the plastic bag ban, sometimes you don't talk about specifics.
John.
Patricia?
Yeah, I just like to reiterate what John has just said. I think that leaving the wording as it is in 642 allows them to do the coordination they need to do when it is appropriate, and not forcing them to have to do particular meetings or particular things. I think it's better to leave it more open-ended, so that those kinds of projects can be coordinated between the different community committees and commissions.
I think if
Maxine?
anything, I'm sorry, I think if anything, there could be somewhere in the charter or somewhere, something to the effect that there should be a charge to the committees to think broadly about who else might be engaged in the same kind of an issue, and that there's an expectation of coordination, but I certainly wouldn't be more specific than that.
Mm-mm.
Just it's an awareness that this is something that should be going on whenever it's necessary, essential, and possible, for efficiency's sake.
Any other questions for John? Thank you very much, John. We'll hope to move this forward and see what the Board of Selectmen says ultimately.
Okay, thank you very much.
Select Board.
Select board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Robin, next is Dick Hartman, Chairman of the Water and Sewer Commissioners.
Right. Hi, Dick. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
I also want to thank Mark for reaching out to you for taking care of that for me. We have a comment about increasing the board to 5 members, 2 alternates, and 1 each for the planning board and the Board of Health.
Yes, thank you. That's accurate. What we've found out, what I found out is that this just, as you know, there's a lot of work going on. And we're only we've been 20 years of planning and 8 months of building. And this is only our first phase. And as things come up and as we observe things and we have policies and decisions to be made, there's quite a bit of heavy lifting and quite a bit of deliberation. And the open meeting law means that this is left to 2 people sometimes. And we try to work around it a number of different ways. We talked to Mike Ford and John Kelly, talk about subcommittees and things. It turns out in the open meeting law, even if you call something a subcommittee with only 2 people, you were still subject to open meeting law in terms of recording and publicized and agendas and all those other things that just become quite burdensome to getting work done. And if we expanded the board and didn't have a quorum when 3 people wanted to get together to do a little bit more work, and this isn't just the sewer portion, this goes right to water rates and the kind of help that I think that the town staff could use, or oversight and guidance and input on all kinds of things. The capital plan is a capital plan, and that's very good, and we do that well as a board. But some of the input on some of the smaller, what you might call smaller things, I use water rates. I mean, for instance, we started by talking about tonight. There's a big discussion town going on with the enterprise fund. The water department's had the largest enterprise fund in town for many, many years. And it's managed quite well. We have good water. We have good oversight. But there's this, I think Mark will attest, we go into these meetings. I think that we could do a little better if we had a little more help. And if we could to spread the burden a little bit and have some more input. That's it in a nutshell. And you can think about what's going on. And I would encourage people to look at, go back and look at the FinCom meeting we just had on the 29th, last Thursday, which was an update on the sewer project, the most comprehensive update we've had. It was very good. There'll be another one on the 12th of May for town meeting with the select board. But you can see how much we have going on, not just now, but what's before us and going forward. So I think we could use some more people getting together. Not more often, but just more, even more people. So that's in a nutshell.
I have one comment.
Mhm.
We reached out to town council about your proposal to increase membership.
Yep.
And under section 6-1-10, the town meeting may by bylaw enlarge or decrease the number of persons to serve as members of the multi-member bodies established under this chapter, and then it goes on to say some other things. So to do what you want would be a two-step program. We could change the charter, but town meeting would have to vote to increase your membership first.
Okay.
I believe you all received a copy of the town council's opinion of that. So you're governed also, as all the multi-member bodies are, under section 6-1-10 of the charter. So we would have to have an article in town meeting to increase your membership by 2 or whatever number you would want. And then we would have a second vote come up under the charter review to put it in the charter itself, so it stands out for your committee.
Well, thank you for that. I guess my question would be, I would bring that back to the board and we'll get that moving. My question would be, do you, to you folks, do you see any problem with it? I mean, do you have any objection? Because if you don't have any, if you do have an objection, I'd like to either find time to address it or figure it out.
I can't speak for everybody, but I think generally we don't see a problem with you increasing it. It's just that you'd have to request an article to the select board for step 1 to increase the membership.
Got it. We'll get that.
And it would probably be
John?
in the fall town meeting.
Yeah.
Which is going to be, we're not going to be at that point, I don't think, with the charter at that point anyway. So it'll be good for you to get that done, and then we can do our work of changing it.
Okay, great.
John, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Dick, thanks for your leadership on the biggest capital project that we have probably ever had in the history of the town. So my question is twofold. One, do you think the requirement for additional members of your board is a transitional step, that once you sort of get systems in place, that kind of depth is no longer required, or it'll be an ongoing demand? And secondly, to what extent is the requirement for additional citizen engagement in this process reflective of inadequate town administrative capacity? It seems to me that in the water area, clean water, and our objectives, there's so many moving parts that there really should be more focal attention somewhere within the town and management of all of the pieces together, and there isn't.
First part of it first. I think that it is certainly a long-term. I think that as we look at the phases of this project, by the time we're done with this, we're going to be doing this for many, many years. So I really do think this, and they come in almost 30-month bites. We've been working on the planning of Meeting House Pond. We'll get through to that. That's not going to, they're not going to flush that first toilet at Meeting House Pond to 2028. And we're looking for $680,000 to finish the planning of it, later this month. So I think this is going to go on for some number of years, at which point in time it may, with any luck, it would, with hard work and good execution, it could become matter of fact, but there's a long way to go before that. To your second point, John and I exchanged a little bit on this. I do agree with you. We've talked about it at our meeting. I've talked about it with at our Board of Water Sewer Commissioners meetings. I did bring it up to the select board. I brought it up to FinCom. I think that there should be a board, a person, a group, a something, and I don't have the answer, but there does need to be, in my opinion, a central authority that manages the approved comprehensive wastewater management plan. We have a plan, or amended. We have an approved plan, which is amended. We have a plan. We're executing the plan now. There are plenty of very, very concerned, passionate people in town, individuals and groups that have a lot to say about our clean waters and our resources, but we are not united in our approach. And it has caused some, friction. Nothing terrible, but when we're executing a plan that's been approved by the town, funded by the town, gone to town meeting, gone through all the steps over all these years, and then there's some differences of opinions recently. People like things done differently, and that's fine, except that it's difficult to people want things done now. They see that we're working on Means House Pond. What about the adjacent bodies? Why aren't we doing that? Why can't we do that? And and on a map it looks easy. In an engineering project, not so much. And there are lots of steps that go along with that. And John, you're probably more intimate with this than anybody, and maybe we're responsible for it than anybody. And thank you for that. But I do think there needs to be a coordinated effort where everyone can be heard, where it can be, and help the selectmen. Ultimately, it's a select board's decision, but help them, vet it, understand it, decide what's in the best interest of town, and then put it before the people.
Is that a step that requires augmentation of the scope of work of your committee, or is it something that needs to be dealt with in terms of the town structure?
Town structure, our committee is pretty clear. The charter is pretty clear about what we do. It's 683 is the type on your agenda, but and I think that our job is pretty straightforward. We're going to implement the plan. We're going to run the projects. We're going to set rates, or recommend rates, make recommendations towards rates, and that's what we do. We're really not. We can advise on policy, but we're not policy people. So we're execution people. We get it done. We implement the plan. We don't. We can have our say in what and how it gets done, but no more than anyone else.
Mark, then Gail.
As somebody who's recently been a member of this group, the volume of somebody coming into this is enormous. I mean, unless you're a civil engineer or you have experience in massive construction, just the learning of the nomenclature and the system, and how to connect A to B to C to D to F is no small task. And it's probably the most difficult thing I've done for a while in terms of learning. So having more people to do this and going through almost a training period, if you will, unless you've been doing this for years, I would say that I'm just beginning to feel somewhat comfortable with the terminology and what's going on, and beginning to understand the scope of it, the amount of money's involved, and essentially the science involved to make choices. So expanding this board is almost necessary in order to create people going forward to a project that I don't really see being completed, if it's not added on additionally, for at least a decade. I think that's realistic. So I would support in increasing this and doing it as quickly as possible, because most of the people who know what they're doing down to the detail are very senior, very, very senior, and so this is really necessary. I'm speaking with a little little biased being on the board, but it's an enormous project. It's an enormous project.
Gail,
Dick, could I ask you whether the committee has ever, or the commission has ever thought about anything in the charter that you wish were different? I mean, that's really, the part that we could contribute to if we knew. I mean, I think, one of the things that certainly I think you've made the case to expand the board and hopefully get some slightly younger members. It's going to go on in infinity. But I'm just curious to know whether any of you have discussed looking at it this way. I mean, originally there was a board of water commissioners in the 80s before the Charter Commission, and they were 3 people. And then we made them a committee, and eventually we got to the sewer commissioners. But that stayed at 3 with just 2 alternates. So I guess I'm thinking that it's an easy thing, I hope, for it to expand it, but I'm just wondering whether there's anything else there that your board has considered that we might look at.
We have not, when it comes to us, it's pretty straightforward. We have not talked about anything else except the number of people. And just following up on what Mark said a little bit, there's, so we have not, but we do get into so many things. And we talk about and it's mentioned here in the agenda too. We talk about the betterment policy and the sewer use rules and regulations. I mean, that was, we could use a lawyer in that group, Mark. You might never catch me saying that again, but this is why we do want to expand it. And we didn't look at anything differently. We did talk about the amount of work that does come up and the number of meetings that we have, and that we could, and we had, and actually must have been August of 19. We met as an entire group twice a week when we were hammering out the sewer use rules and regulations. Because at the time we thought we wanted to get them, get them through a process. We need to get things going quickly as we got to construction and knew what we were in for. But it took all those bodies all that time to get that done. So anyway, we have not talked about it's a long way of saying no. We haven't talked about anything else except the number.
Thank you.
John.
Tricia.
Yeah, I just wanted to add when Gail was talking about sort of the history of the Board of Water Committee and then commissioners. In 2007, my responsibility was chapter on the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners, and that was adding in also being a sewer commissioner, because at that point we were still just testing water out in the bay, and but we knew that eventually you were going to have to do this job, and so we did that, and I'm glad to know that at least you have a concise thing that you're supposed to do, and you get to do it. You have responsibilities, and there is a question that came up about the word sewer rates. That was I put that in because we had no idea whether there were going to be betterment fees, whether there were going to be any other taxes, how that was going to go. So sewer rates was sort of a catch-all for something that could include a lot of things. Do you think that needs to be changed, or can we just leave it the way it is?
I would defer to the experts on that, but we are indeed recommending betterments, and we debated whether it's a betterment or an assessment. And with the debate so rages, we decided on betterment. Again, we are making a recommendation. We're doing the math. we are not even making a recommendation. We're just doing the math. We are getting the final cost. We look at the water usage, the method by which the betterment was going to be calculated, and the time frame by which how it was going to be implemented were not our decisions. Those were select board decisions. And then they came to us and said, you know, have at it. And then we started doing the math. We started working on it and doing, you know, what ifs. And if we, you know, we did come up with the standard unit, which is why it's before special legislation, that the state uses 100 gallons. And we wanted to use 55, and 55, the number we wanted to use because it was the average of the downtown condo owner when we were talking about the impact on our residents and the type of people that live in the downtown area. And we were a little focused on the downtown originally, and some of the debate rages now as to what we do next. I might be getting a little off track here, but as I do talk about that, I do think it's important for the discussion. You know, the debate rages now, does one size fit all for betterment? Is Meeting House Pond, you know, obviously Meeting House Pond, you're not going to get more seats in your restaurant in the Meeting House, most of the area of Meeting House Pond is you are downtown. However, you're not going to be able to put a pool in, you know, on Main Street where you can over Meeting House Pond. And you know, and there's the number of users and the cost of the system there's a large, and the lack of commercial water users that are paying, the supermarkets paying lots of money. It's very valuable to them to do that as opposed to maintaining their on-site systems. The restaurants getting more seats are very valuable to them to have this. And there's restaurants that are begging us to get this thing done. Now, but to a homeowner, it's going to be, the numbers work a lot differently. It's going to be very expensive over Meeting House Pond. Does that mean we should do it the same way? Not our decision. Not our decision. We can present the numbers. We can show people what the numbers are, and we can sit back and then, you know, take advice. That said, I don't know if it needs to go in the charter, but it is going to have a significant impact on anyone associated with the sewer system in town. So I don't know if it should be there or not.
Okay.
But it's certainly it's going to be a much more real number than their rates are going to be. If that's any indication.
Well, do you think that we should include the words taxes and betterment fees along with sewer rates? Or as Patricia said, does the general term sewer rates cover all of that?
It might be rates and fees. And then it does expand it some. So it's not just rates, because rates, you think of rates as per gallon.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And so it might be rates and fees can be the generic part. Because I'm not sure the taxes, you know, because technically the betterment is a tax lien on your property, and the way it's been talked about, it can be over 30 years, not more than 2% more than the town's borrowing at.
Hmm.
So
So you consider sewer rates and betterment fees would better cover what you're talking about?
well, we might call it fees in general, because there are other fees also. There's a privilege fee. Which is just a substitute. It's just a different type of betterment. For instance, if there's someone who is, if there's a shoe store on 6A that turns into a restaurant, they will pay a privilege fee when they increase. So that's not exactly a betterment. It's because there are certain designations for betterments that are not that are betterments need to be done at the time of the cost. But if the privilege fee be different, so maybe fees serves as a generic term for betterments and those privilege fees. So maybe it's just
Sewer rates and fees?
might
Sewer rates and
cover it.
fees.
Right,
sewer rates and fees
correct,
would better cover it and leave it more open for as things change down the pipe.
correct, correct.
Okay.
I would recommend that.
Okay,
So do we want
I
to,
think, Mark, did you have your?
Mark,
The lawyer in me would say that the way you change the language is fees, betterments, and costs consistent with the development, maintains, and of the facility, because you just don't know what label you're going to put on anything. A hookup fee, a betterment fee, a cost fee, a replacement fee, a coupling fee. I mean, it gets to be endless, but the bottom line becomes that you have to make the project financially secure. You have to pay for it. So you have a language that is so expansive with the purpose is to, maintain the integrity and financial integrity of the budget moving forward. So I don't know if
Mark, are you-
that's had any help to you.
Are you suggesting that the generic term fees is the best way to handle that? Because
I think you have to
General.
define it. And that's one of the problems I have with some of the things. There are not a lot of definitions of what things are and what they mean. You sort of put it in, you think it is, and then it's elastic enough to cover it. But the purpose of all the betterment fees, costs, and rates in order to maintain the integrity of the project and preserve its physical integrity moving forward. So that's what you're doing. So if you have a purpose clause, if you will, preamble, call it what you want, it shows the intent of the revenue matter, which I think is important, because somebody is going to say, well, you charge just a fee and it should have been a betterment and you're creating a lien and this is a tax assessment. But you want to make sure that what we're doing is, preserving, as I said, to repeat it.
So Mark, could you do something like, say, to impose a sufficient revenue structure to finance the project?
That's I would say a revenue structure, and don't fight about what somebody says is sufficient. So, but anyway, that's my take on it.
yeah,
John, through you, Dick, could we suggest that maybe it would be better for you, or not better, but just could you, if the others agree, take this discussion back to your commission and draft us some potential language?
Yes,
Because we're not the kind of creators, we try and take what we get from the various and sundry multi-member bodies that are trying to help update for the next 7 years, basically.
yeah, certainly. And happy to have Mark's help with this.
well, I think, Dick, your next step really doesn't involve us. You need to go to the select board and get an article on the fall town meeting to request permission to increase your membership by 2 or whatever you choose.
Mhm.
And if that passes at town meeting, then that tells us what we need to do to the charter. If it passes, then we need to amend the charter to accommodate that.
Okay.
But we can't really do anything until that passes town meeting.
Right.
We'll get that done. And I will also, I worked with Mark to address the issue that Patricia brought up concerning the verbiage sewer rates.
Right.
Right.
And we'll get something back to you to
Get that back. Yeah.
to chat about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you working with the town. Thank you.
Overwhelmed by how much work you have to do, Dick.
There's another thing to do right there.
There's stuff to do, and there's a great board doing it. So we're in good hands.
Good.
That was actually one of the things somebody had put in there as a possibility of changing from the water commission to water and sewer board. I don't know who put that in.
That
That
John.
was just something I recommended so we could solve the commission committee
Oh,
thing.
okay.
But I think we'll
Ignore
just-
it. Ignore
We're
it.
not going to do that.
We're not doing that.
Thanks
A problem
again.
that didn't need to be solved.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Mark, for getting Dick here.
Okay, we'll move on to number 9, which is future agenda items. I think we still need to continue to establish the order of chapter reviews. We've got a pretty good step on multi-membered bodies.
We do.
And then the shepherds of those areas will let us know who they would like to invite.
Mhm.
We still have some more discussion to do on the town and manager versus town administrator. And amending section 3-5-3 formal agreements in excess of 5 years and appropriation of town funds in excess of $500,000. We still haven't gotten that far because we really haven't made the first decision to recommend. I would like to meet with the town moderator on June 7th. He said that that's a good date for him.
Yep.
And we can talk about town meeting composition, quorum, adjournment, and those particular issues.
Mhm.
Moderator powers and responsibilities and enforcing the rules. As one person has suggested that the rules need to be enforced more strictly. But we'll talk to him about that. I think we'll review the survey on May 17th.
Mhm.
Okay?
John?
Yes,
John, for your information, we got the first run of results today.
okay.
Yep.
But I'll give you time to compile and we'll talk about it in a couple of weeks. Okay, Charter Review Committee's role in committee charges. Maxine was looking into that.
Yep.
If we have any role at all. I would like to talk about that on May 17th.
Yeah, I'm in,
Committee of committee chairs and a committee to welcome new Americans. That was an idea expressed by Mark. We can discuss that on the 17th. Along with, are there too many committees? And more use of task forces, which actually came up tonight, is that our committees talking to each other when the goal of what's being, of a particular project involves more than one committee.
Yeah.
Maxine,
just in terms of that, I've started going over the charges of each of the committees. And what I'm trying to do is kind of make an outline of what the charges are and identify where the overlap is.
excellent.
Kind of list what committees they seem to be overlapping with. Who do they mention, or what charges do they mention that are clearly related to another group?
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll help us decide
Good.
where there's some room.
Tricia,
I just wanted to add, when you're talking about on May 17th and talking about different committees, I happened to, when I knew that Alan Harrison was coming and we had Tracy Murphy, and they were talking about having a recreation rep on the CPC. So I looked up Massachusetts general law for community preservation committees.
Mhm.
And the maximum number of people you can have on that committee is 9, which we already have.
Right.
Right.
And it lists one from CONSCOM, one from Historical Commission, one from the Planning Board, one appointed by the Board of Park Commissioners, Housing Authority, and Open Space, and then 3 by the Select Board. Now, when I look through the entire charter, that is the only mention that I came up with, well, maybe I missed some of it, about Open Space Committee, which doesn't exist. It's specifically mentioned under CPC, but it's not mentioned anyplace else in the charter.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it needs to be added somewhere. That might be
You want to
something.
create
we need to-
another committee, Pat?
No, it already exists. No, it already exists. It just isn't, it's referenced in the charter,
It's
but
just
there is
omitted.
nothing that describes the open space committee in the charter.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if that's something we need to consider. Not that we have to do it, but I just wanted to make that note.
A couple committees aren't listed. in the
Good
chart.
catch, Pat.
Yeah, I think that's important and we should discuss that. I'm also thinking when you listed all the people that are members of the CPC committee, perhaps we can cut back the selectmen to 2 and add the recreation.
Right. And that can be part of our discussion.
They have 4 now anyway, because they're the park commissioners.
Right. So, yeah, they can figure that out. Maybe the park commissioners can appoint someone from the recreation group or something. We can figure that out. But I just wanted to make sure that gets on some agenda item somewhere.
Open space.
Putting the open space committee in the charter.
Okay. And we also want to talk the responsibility for implementing selectmen policies. That was a public comment thing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's a charter issue or not, but that's something in the future we need to discuss. Because the selectmen, select board sort of police themselves on are they implementing their own policies? Or are they directing the town administrator to do so? Gail?
I think we may need to, and it probably can come as a part of Maxine's discussion, but we really have to make a decision as to whether we are trying to include every single committee that exists, or we strengthen the language which says, and any other multi-member body that comes up.
Right.
Because, the charter, remember, the charter is a framework, and it's intentionally vague in some places. And so I just think that should be part of the discussion. I remember a few weeks ago, we were saying, oh, well, we have to add it to the charter, but I'm not sure all of them just need to be. I mean, the regulatory ones, yes, and some of the ones that historically have been there should stay, but it's just just to mention that.
Maxine?
I think one of the pressing issues is whether or not they're working as efficiently as they could. And it's important to know what the committees are and whether or not that they're communicating, or is there duplication. So it's not an issue of what's included in the charter so much as are getting a
understand.
sense
Yeah.
of who there is and how are they working together.
Yeah.
Rob and then Mark.
Yeah, and I think there's that issue of if they're not in the charter, because I think this was part of the issue with the recreation, they feel like they're not as important as the other committees, and maybe they're being sloughed off rather than.
Mark?
I would like to see a definitional cause for creating a committee or a board. And in other words, when most people do something, they collect the data, and that data becomes the reason to create the board. So there ought to be some criteria for why you create another board, another commission, or whatever the name is on Monday and Tuesday, because you've got like 35 of them right now.
Mhm.
Then there ought to be some thing in that charge where they are charged to coordinate with other boards or commissions. And third, there really ought to be a sunset clause in terms of the particular board or commission. And it can be reasonable, every 3 years, or every 4 years, there's a review of whether or not its existence should continue. Because otherwise, you just add and add and add and add, and you spread it out to such an extent that you have the silo or chimney effect. So ab initio, from the beginning, if there were criteria to be set forth to the charge, is because you meet our criteria, because we've determined a need, and then we're charging you to do this and coordinate with A, B, and C, and then there's some systematic review as to whether or not the open space committee should exist in the future, or appropriately belongs in the park commissions. So I mean, there's that seemed to be running through it, and I don't think there's anything why we can't discuss what the reason should be to create a committee and for that minute end it.
I believe that is more efficient, but I think that's selectmen's policy issue.
Yep.
They decide what committees they want and what committees they want to get, except for your regulatory committees. I think if you look a brief overview of what's in the charter, most of the committees that are mentioned are those that have some kind of regulatory power and they need to be addressed. While all the other committees are just created by the Board of Selectmen for various ideas, and they would decide when they sunset, not the charter.
Yeah.
Maxine and Patricia.
Yeah, just Mark, how many committees did you say there were?
I think there are 35.
Okay. I have a list of 20 from the charges that were sent to me, from the committees for the charges.
So the task force and things like that. There's quite a few more.
I can dig
So
out where
how do I
found that.
get hold of those?
It's actually, if you go on the committee list on the
Oh,
website,
sure.
there are those. I have.
35? I think there are 35.
It's an awful lot.
I think I got 20 that were sent to me.
Patricia?
I just have one little aside. When I looked up the Open Space Committee, when I was checking that, it was created at the May 1985 town meeting. So that was pre-charter. It was created. So it's been around a long time. And it's an important committee. So, I mean, it's one of
And
those.
that was when we started all the buying,
Right.
so that really was the most important focus at that
Right.
particular time.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Item G, address economic development, emergency preparedness, police oversight, climate change. They've been on our agenda for a while. Eventually, they'll move up to where we actually start discussing those.
Mhm.
And then for the Board of Health, Health Agent, and Health Emergencies, we need to, or someone needs to find a time to invite the Board of Health to address us. And if you want, I will contact them and find out when they would like to talk to us.
After the pandemic, probably.
Could
Say
we,
again?
I said after the pandemic.
Oh, is there
I
an,
think we should wait out. You think
I
hopefully
think
there's an
that
end to that?
covers
Get busy.
is George Meservey the person that's listed for economic development and climate change? I think we talked about having him. I'm kind of curious to know who's left for us to have. We were going to have the police, we're going to have the moderator. We've got a date for them.
That's select board.
Because I think we're almost at the stage where once we get those people in, or even in fact, when someone like George comes in, we could take that chapter and throw all the questions that are in that planning chapter at him
Mhm.
and start to have agenda items per chapter. We don't have to know everything, but it just might be a way of going forward.
Okay. Any other items you want to add to the list? None at this time? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7 PM.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, so Pat moved it, Robin seconded. All those in favor by roll call, Mark,
Mark Person, aye.
Patricia,
Tricia Fallender, aye.
Robin,
Robin Hubbard, aye.
Maxine,
Maxine Minkoff, aye.
Walter,
Aye.
What about
and
Gail?
I also vote to
You
adjourn.
forgot Gail.
You forgot Gail.
Me
Who did I
too.
forget?
Gail.
Robin?
Gail
And
Gail.
Gail Myers Lavin, yes, Guy.
Boy, I can't even read my own thing over here.
That means
We are ready.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Very productive meeting. Thank you very much.